Hi, Jesse with eTrailer. Today I'll be helping you assemble your Hollywood Racks RV Rider. Here's the box that our rack will arrive in. I'll get everything taken out of it and set aside. We'll go over what we have. Now we have all of our parts laid out, and we'll just go through them real quick. We have 4 wheel holders, 2 frame clamps, a main beam, the double post, 2 wheel support tubes, the hitch tube with the pin and clip attached, and our support bracket. Now for our hardware, we have our 2 bolts with tubes for the frame clamps, our double post knob, our main beam knob, 1 locking cable, 2 black straps, 1 red strap, 4 wheel support bolts with nuts and washers, 2 wheel stop screws, our main beam hardware, our double post hardware, 4 keys, a hitch bolt and lock, the hitch tightener, 2 small wheel adapters, and for our tools we have a 5mm hex key with a Phillips on one end and 2 17mm and 19mm wrenches and 1 17mm socket wrench. To start our assembly, we will install the hitch post into our vehicle's receiver. So just slide that up until our holes in our receiver line up with the threaded hole in the tube. We'll get this tightened down. And then use our 19mm end on our wrench and tighten it down the rest of the way. Now with that tightened down, we'll install our lock on the other end. As long as it's in the locked position, we should be able to just slide it on. And that's locked into place. Now for the next step, we'll take this bolt that has that spacer in it, and before we get our main tube in our hands, I'm going to get our hardware ready. So take the nut off, slide 1 washer and the spacer off, and leave that flat washer on this end. Then we'll take our main assembly here, and you'll notice our plastic sleeve is a little bit pushed out. Just make sure it's pushed all the way forwards, and you can see all 3 of the holes there. And this should set right on top of this pin here. And we'll take our bolt, and you'll notice on our hitch tube here that one hole is smaller than the other. We're going to put this bolt in through the smaller hole on the front of our rack here. Get that lined up and all the way through, and slide your spacer in. That should slide into the hole on our tube here. Flat washer and our nut. For now, we're just going to leave this finger tight. Now we'll take the hardware with the black knob. Just take that off for now. And also remove our washers. So we're going to slide it through the square hole on the rear. Make sure our pin stays out of our way. Once that gets lined up, it should pop into place there. Then we'll take our flat washer first, then our split washer, and install our hand knob. Now for our bolt that's closest to the vehicle, we'll need both of our wrenches. We're using the larger end, the 19mm. Get that tightened down pretty good. Once this one's tightened, we will just tighten the other one with the hand knob by hand. For our hardware for the next step, we'll take the gray knob, just separate everything first. Also, we have this smaller bolt with a flat washer. So take the nut off, set the washer with that nut, set those aside. Then we'll take our double post here. Once again, we have the plastic sleeve, so just make sure it's slid all the way up. And we'll be sliding this down in here with our sticker facing out on these holes here that are lined up with our tube. And take our bolts. Once again, we have the square holes, so once you get everything lined up, it should slide right into that square. And then we'll take our flat washer and our nut. Get that hand tightened for now. Take our other bolts, slide that in. And this will go flat washer, split washer, and our hand knob. We want it on the back of the bike rack. Now we're ready to tighten it down. It might actually be easier to get this knob out of our way for now. Leave the bolt in there, but that way we can get a better turn on our wrench. We're going to be using the smaller side, the 17mm side. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but if you have a socket set with a 17mm and a 19mm, it's definitely going to make this easier, or even a power tool. But we're just going to use the tools that were included today. So get this tightened down and then tighten down that hand knob. For the next step, we'll be using our 4 matching bolts, get everything separated. Once again, set those aside. Then we'll be taking our wheel support tubes. These will just slide right onto our main frame here with the square holes facing up. One on each side. Just try to get those lined up as best you can with the holes in the main assembly. And our support bracket will swing around the back here, and we'll slide our bolts down through the top. Now with those bolts slid in, we'll take our spacer, slide it up through the top there. You'll have to kind of hold it with one hand and start threading the nut on to the bottom. And then we'll just do that process with all 4 of the bolts. Now we'll take the 17mm end of our wrench and get those tightened down. We're ready to slide our wheel holders on. One thing you may notice, your little rubber piece might fall off, so I'll just slide that back on, and then before I get to handling these too much, I like to just clip the binder in, just a few clips, that way we don't have to worry about that falling back off. So we'll loosen our knob, slide this on here, and they really just slide in. You'll just loosen the knob and they'll go right on. And one thing I wanted to mention is when we're setting these up, we want to make sure that we're alternating the locations per side. So you'll see on this side, I installed our outside This is the passenger side, but this is the outside wheel holder. I installed that first, and our inside one second. And I'll do the opposite on the other end. I'll install the inside one first and our outside one second. That's just going to give us the most amount of adjustability when we're setting this up for bikes. Before we can install our frame clamp, we will have to disassemble it. So we'll turn this counterclockwise. It should pop loose. Just be careful, there is a lock washer and a plastic washer there. So I'll just take everything and just set it aside for now. And we'll take our clamp off. And we'll have to slide this bolt all the way off. And also, this plastic piece here might fall out, so just be careful of that. And just make sure you know what order everything is going to go back on. Now we'll take just this piece and our bolt. We want to make sure that we're orientated this way and not that way. So make sure it's facing towards the outside. And I'll slide the bolt through the back here. Make sure to hold on to this center piece. And that should kind of support itself for now. We'll take our other piece of our clamp here. You'll have to hold the back of the bolt to make sure it doesn't slide back. Just get that like that. Our plastic washer. We'll want to make sure that our concave is facing this way. Our lock washer. And then our hand knob here. You will kind of have to push against it in order to close that clamp and get those threads to engage, while also holding on to that bolt in the back, so it can get kind of tricky. But we'll just get that threaded on for now, and we'll repeat that process with the other one, just making sure that that clamp is facing towards this bike. For the next step, it'll be easier not only to show you what we're doing, but most likely just to work on in general, because we're trying to access some screws that are on the bottom of our rack now. So I'm going to put this rack in the upright position, so I'll just real quick walk you through how to do that. We'll take this gray knob, back it off. And then we'll slide our bolt out. Just be careful to catch those washers when you do. Keep everything together just so it's easier to put back on. Then our double post here will rotate this way. You may need to make some adjustments just to make sure it clears everything. I'll just reinstall that bolt in this upper hole here. Slide our washers on and tighten that knob down. Next, we'll remove our black knob here. Slide our bolts out, be sure to catch those washers. And we'll rotate everything up. Once you're pushed all the way back, you can slide your bolt back through that bottom hole and reinstall your washers. Now we need to install our small screws into these threaded holes on the bottom. And we'll use our Phillips end of our hex key to tighten those down. These are just here to stop our wheel holders from sliding all the way off. So we have one on this side and then one on the other side. We'll get those tightened down. The bike rack itself is completely assembled, however, Hollywood Racks includes this nice anti-rattle U-bolt, so we might as well show you how to install it. This is here to keep any up and down movement of the bike rack from happening. It's going to cut down on vibrations. You'll just have to make sure that your receiver has a flange like this on it, and you can install this one of two ways, either like this, or the opposite way, and that's just depending on any clearance issues that you might have. Obviously we don't have any clearance issues, so I'll just install it this way. So get that U-bolt wrapped around the flange and this plate onto the hitch here. We'll start with a flat washer and a nut. Another flat washer and nut. When you're tightening these down, you'll just want to make sure that you're tightening them down evenly so it's not cocked off to one side. You want to get these pretty tight here, just to make sure that you're cutting down on the vibrations. And once those are tight, we'll slide our split washers over and then top those off with these jam nuts. Tighten those down. Now our rack is officially assembled. All we have to do is throw our bikes on here, get everything adjusted how we want it. Other than that, we're ready to roll. Anyways, I'm Jesse, and I hope this video helped you assemble your Hollywood Racks RV Rider.